Dozens of asylum seekers have boarded a barge off the UK's south coast. It's part of the government's controversial plans to use cheaper alternatives to accommodate migrants. Up to 500 men are expected to be housed on the three-storey vessel while their asylum claims are being processed. Ministers say it'll be more cost-effective than using hotels, but critics have called it cruel and inhumane. Dr. Joe Wilding is a lecturer in public and migration law at the University of Sussex here in the UK. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. So, cruel and inhumane, or a legally sound solution? What's your take on this?
The barge, the idea of the barge is you put a large number of people on it and it's cheaper than hotels. The thing about the hotels is that there are only large numbers of people in there waiting for a decision on an asylum claim because the Home Office simply hasn't got on with making any asylum decisions. So we have a huge backlog, and that's why people are now being accommodated in hotels. It's not exactly luxury in the hotels either. Here at Sussex University in our law clinic, we had a client her legs are quite seriously injured from childhood. She's accommodated on the third floor of a hotel and they are not allowed to use the lifts. So she then ended up in hospital because she fell on a badly lit stairwell. So we're not talking about luxury spa hotels. Of course it's cheaper if you put people in accommodation you don't have to pay for. It's cheaper still if you make their asylum decisions, and the vast majority of those people will qualify for asylum because we have a 95% grant rate for people coming from Afghanistan. We have about a similar grant rate for people coming from Eritrea. Certain countries, we know have high protection needs. And so there is absolutely no point keeping people stuck in accommodation for 2 years, 3 years at a time, not allowed to work. The cheapest thing would not be to stick 500 people on a barge made for 240. It would be to make asylum decisions and let people get on with their lives, get on with learning English, get on with getting into jobs, and get on with becoming part of the community here.
And this barge, I mean, could we say it's something of a gimmick? Because I understand many of the people who are due to board today aren't actually going to because of legal challenges. You know, is this really a deterrent for people that the government is trying to put people off from being would-be asylum seekers?
I mean, it's hard to say what the government's actually trying to do, but they come up with policies like, we're going to send everyone to Rwanda, when there's obviously going to be a legal challenge to that. Sometimes it does look like they're just trying to provoke a conflict. Other times it looks like they're trying to look as cruel as possible. They announced things in the Nationality and Borders Act of 2022, which they basically then abandoned without ever bringing into force, and introduced the new Illegal Migration Act a couple of weeks ago. There's all these policies that they come out with that we describe as performatively cruel, you know, just to look like we're being cruel. What they say about the barge is this is not about a deterrent, this is about cheaper accommodation. But if you think about it, someone that has fled their country, they've travelled across the Mediterranean, which is incredibly dangerous, and we were just hearing about yet more human beings drowning in the Mediterranean on that last bulletin. They've managed to make it across Europe, and, you know, they've faced all sorts. They've faced beatings, they've faced dogs, they've faced tear gas, they've made it as far as northern France, and then they risk their lives again to get across the Channel because there's some reason that they want to be in the UK. It's often a friend or a family member or a community from their home country. It can be all kinds of reasons. Or they're being trafficked, they're being controlled by someone else. That's sometimes the situation. But whatever it is, telling them they might be put on a barge where they have to share a bunk bed with a stranger in horrible conditions it's bad. It's not okay, but it's not worse than what they've already chosen to face to get to here. So it won't act as a deterrent. And as I said, the way to get people out of accommodation the Home Office has to pay for is to just make asylum decisions.
Joe, really good to get your expertise on this issue. Thank you very much indeed. That's Dr. Joe Wilding from the University of Sussex.
Thanks.